Hello there, voltage modular people, PoohBear here and welcome to my channel. I'm only going to be doing a very high level overview of the pads themselves, so I'm not going to actually break down all the wires and all the rest of it. What makes this setup, say, a little bit different is the fact that I'm using a poly oscillator, but yeah, I'm using box standard filters, envelopes and an amplifier as well. Admittedly, when I originally set this up, I did have a poly filter and a poly envelope and a poly amp, but my system was really stretched to the limit, so I was looking at every single possible place I could save myself a few CPU cycles, and this was one of them. I thought, well, if I can get rid of the poly stuff here and here, I've got to be saving something. So the reason, and you've got to be very careful because this works for a couple of reasons. Number one is I'm not key tracking the filter, so I'm not trying to follow the filter to what I'm actually playing, which is quite important. And the second important part is if I just quickly scroll up, I've got my poly voice count set to 6, so that means I'm always pushing 6 notes into the poly oscillator. If you suddenly decide, actually I'm not going to play 6 notes now, I'm going to play 5 or 4 notes, well, you're going to have issues because you can have 2, or if I only play 4 notes, I'm going to have 2 lingering notes which are going to come through the system. If I was controlling the amplifier, be more to the point, really the main controlling one. If I was controlling, say, a poly amplifier, well, I could cut out them 2 other voices, and we could work that one out, but I haven't. So that is very key, that because I am not using a poly amp, I've got to always play 6 notes. So let's just actually quickly look at the audio route very briefly, and then we'll bring in some of the CV stuff as well. So very basic, we're going from obviously our oscillator into this poly to mono, so we're converting that down into a single audio stream. I'm actually splitting that off to go into this formant filter, and I'm also going onto my normal filter. So that's kind of splitting the sound and making a layered sound going into my filter, which from my filter is I'm going straight forward into my amp into the chorus 60, which I rather like, and from the chorus 60 into the PSP space, which you probably see I'm actually using quite a bit on my projects. I do like that as an effect as well. And then straight out to a voltage control mixer. Now there is quite a few other moving parts, and some of them, like this, what's happening over in this corner here, it's not actually happening in the original project, but we'll talk about that in a second. Something else you probably haven't seen before is the InRanRand. Depends when you're watching this video. That's basically a range randomizer which I've built. The formant filter has 9 different valves, and what I'm able to do with this range randomizer, there's this unique mode which is called all. Basically, so I said, there's 9 different settings I've got for my valve setting. So this is going to come along and it's going to randomly pick one of them and take it out the pot. And then when I ask for it to pick another one, it's going to pick another one and it takes it out the pot. And it keeps doing that until all 9 have gone. And once all 9 are gone, it'd reset the pot and we can sort of carry on again. So it's a nice randomization process, but it makes sure I will select each of them valves out of every single 9 times I've asked it to. At the moment, I've actually got this set up to my gate in. It's purely, so I just hit the keyboard there, so that's my gate in. Obviously in the main project, I've got that configured coming from, I think I might have it even from a story forward. I'll have to have a double check on that, but we'll be going through that in the big project. So that's something a little bit special setup. Down here, yes, I'm using a jazzy jukebox where I put all my chords in, and that's where they was coming from. Obviously, just going to the, splitting them down into the poly, so that's allowed me to obviously drive the oscillators there. And then I can take one single piece of gate data out of the jazzy jukebox because I'm not worrying about the poly size. I say I'm playing 6 notes every single time, so I can just use one bit of gate data and use that mono gate data to fire the envelope off to obviously control the filter and the amplifier. The only other little funny thing I've got going on, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend this, I'm just going to sort of talk about this very briefly. I would tend to go for the Boolean logic when I'm doing this sort of thing, but I just happen to have this attenuator sitting here in the corner. So when I hit a key on my keyboard, I wanted this to hit start so I could actually hear whatever's inside Jazzy Jukebox, which happens to be this chord. And then when I take my finger off, I wanted it to stop. So I've got a gate data coming down, which I'm obviously putting across into my run. So when if I hit a key, it's going to hit run. I've then taken also another feed from that and going down into this on this attenuator, and I'm inverting it. So I've now inverted the signal, so it's a negative signal, and I've offset it by 5 volts. So when this stops, this is basically going to drop to a 0 volt, which means it's going to push out a 5 volt. A 5 volt is going to hit the stop button, so hence it stops when I let go of the key. So start, let go, and it stops. So that's very, very straightforward. And obviously I'm using the pitch in to control the which slot I'm playing with inside Jazzy Jukebox. The spanner I've just really left here because, again, in the main project I'm using like lots and lots of different ports of the spanner, but I'm obviously controlling again. I'm doing a lot with the pan within this project I've been using, and obviously I'm controlling the levels again to bring the levels right down. If you may notice, I've actually got one set of levels are being controlled by one part of the spanner, and then this other CV is controlling this amplifier here, which is controlling how much of that 4-amp filter result we can actually layer up. So it's changing that level, so some parts it's going to be sounding louder and some parts it's going to be sounding quieter. So at the moment it's probably it's getting towards its loudness, which you're going to hear the valves. I was actually playing the same key there, so I was actually making the 4-amp filter sort of go through its different valve settings. So that's basically it for this sort of overview of the pads. It's a box standard setup regarding everything else of sawtooth, which as you probably know from my videos I tend to like. Yeah, just using obviously a bit of cut off, a bit of saturation. As I say, there's nothing else really special going on, so that's the pad setup. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.